Hello, Grade 10s. So we're working with exchange rates today from slides 37 to 41 from the PowerPoint's financial maths. Okay, so just to talk about exchange rates quickly, you know how it works. We exchange one currency to the other currency. Now, how the world works is one currency will be stronger or weaker or equal to that other currency. Now, what affects a currency is import and export. Okay, so if you're exporting more than you're importing, your currency will be weaker. Okay, and how we normally write a exchange rate is something like this. If we've got now GBP stands for Great British Pound. And ZAR just stands for the South African Rand. Okay, this must be an old exchange rate because I think the pound is stronger than what the Rand is now, just because of the whole coronavirus thing and stuff like that. So, as you can see here, we've got one British pound is 13 Rand 57. So you can see that the pound is stronger than the Rand, okay? Or vice versa. The Rand is weaker than the pound because it takes you more South African Rand to buy 1 pound. Other way around, it takes less pounds to buy more South African Rand. Okay, so if we look at example 1, example 1 is saying a South African tourist wants to purchase 1,500 US dollars. Okay, determine the price in rands if the exchange rate is given as so. So we've got US dollars to rand is in this ratio 1 to 7 Rand 93. Okay, that's how they've told us. They've written it like this though. They said $1 is equal to, and I've just written it up as a ratio. Okay, so now you want to buy 1,500 US dollars. So which column would that go under? Would it go under the dollars column or the rands column? Okay, it's going to go under the dollars column because that's what that is. So we've got here 1,500. Okay, now you ask yourself, how did we get from this 1 to 1,500? You multiply it by 1,500. Okay. So what I do to this side, I must do to this side. So I must multiply this by 1,500 to keep them the same. Okay. So let's do that. 7.93 multiplied by 1,500. And we get 11,895. Okay, so therefore, 1,500 US dollars will buy you 11,895 Rand. Okay, going on to example 2. Example 2 is saying a South African software company imports goods from Hong Kong where 1 Rand is equal to 1,122 Hong Kong dollars. Okay, it goes on to say what will happen to the price of a shipment worth 50,000 Hong Kong dollars if the exchange rate changes to 1 Hong Kong dollar equals 0.62 Rand. In other words, 62 cents. So we're going from this exchange rate to this exchange rate, and we want to look at what will happen to a shipment that costs 50,000 Hong Kong dollars. So I just want to highlight these two because they're two different exchange rates. And we are going to compare them to this shipment amount here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with the red one first. Okay, so we've got rand to Hong Kong dollars. Okay, so we know we've got 1 rand to 1,122 Hong Kong dollars. So I'm going to compare this amount here. So Hong Kong dollar is going to go under this column here, and we want 50,000. So we multiplied by something. We multiplied this 1.122 by something to get the 50,000. Now, what is it? It's not as simple as what we did here. So what I do is I take the calculator and I take this 50,000 and I just divide it by this 1.122. So what we multiplied by is this amount here, and I'm going to round it off to 2 decimal places. So we get 44,563,28. So what I do to this side, I must do to this side. So I'm going to multiply this side by 44,563 and 28. So 1 times that amount will give us 44,563 and 28 cents. Okay, so that's what that one is. So I just want to make a note here. This will cost us 44,563 and 28 cents. Okay, so let's have a look at the other one now. The other one I'm just going to do over here. So again, we've got the rand to the Hong Kong dollar. Okay, so here we have 1 Hong Kong dollar is 0.62 rand. Okay, so this 50,000 is going to go underneath this column here because it's a Hong Kong dollar. Okay, so how did I get from this one to this one? Well, that's easy. I just multiplied by 50,000. Okay, what I do to this side, I must do to this side. So I must multiply by 50,000. Okay, so on our calculators, 0.62 multiplied by 50, 1, 2, 3, and we get 31,000. And I'm just going to make a note over here. So, for the red one, this was the red one, and this was the blue one. So, for an exchange rate for the red one, we are paying 44,563 rand and 28 cents. For the blue exchange rate, we're paying 31,000. So, what has happened here is the amount has decreased. So, this is actually a better exchange rate for us because we're paying less. Okay. If we look at example 3, example 3 is saying that 1 Australian dollar is equal to 6 rand 648 cents, and 1 pula is the currency for Botswana, and that gives us 1 rand 0.048 cents. Okay, it goes on to say that the Australian dollar to pula, or we have to find what is the Australian dollar to pula exchange rate. So I'm just going to put it over here, the Australian dollar to the pula. What is that exchange rate? Okay, so what I'm going to do is, because they are both comparing to the rand, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to find out what is 1 rand for each one. Okay, so let's have a look at this one first and it'll make sense. So Australian dollar to the rand, we know we have 1 to 6,648. And what I want to do is I want to find 1 rand to the Australian dollar. So how did I get from 6.648 to 1? I divided by 6.648. So what I do to this side, I must do to this side. And I divide by 6,648. We can just do that on the calculator. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it as a fraction, because you can see grade 10s that it comes out to be some long thing like that. And don't worry, I'm going to sort out that fraction a little later. Okay, so we get 125 over 831. Cool, so I have 1 rand now for the Aussie dollar to the rand. I'm going to do the same for the pula and the rand. So we have pula to the rand, and it's 1 to 1,048. Again, I want to find 1 rand. So I divide by 1,048. What I do to this side, I must do to this side. Okay, so on the calculator, we've got 1 divided by 1.048. And again, I'm just going to leave it as a fraction and we'll sort it out in a second. So we get 125 to 131. Now, the reason why I've got it as 1 rand to each respective one is because now I can compare these two. Since they both related to 1 rand, that must mean that they are related to each other. Okay, so now I can compare an Aussie dollar to a pula. And the Aussie dollar is 125 over 831. And the pula is 125 over 131. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find out 1 Australian dollar. So how did I get from this to this? I divided by this fraction here, 125 over 831. What I do to this side, I must do to this side. Divided by 125 over 831. Okay, so let's take this fraction, 125 over 131, divide that by 125 over 831. Now this one I can round off, and because we're dealing with money, I'm just going to round it off to 2 decimal places, so we get 6,34. Okay, so therefore our exchange rate is an Australian dollar 1 is to the pula 634. Okay, so 1 Australian dollar will cost you 6 pula 34 cents. Okay, grade 10s, I would like you to do exercise 12.7 for me, please. Thank you.